of explaining, may I become a Buddha to benefit all transmaterial beings, but usually I only listen to the Dharma. I don't, I'm never on the throne, so to say, to explain. So I will do my best today to explain a little bit about Lamrim. Is there anybody here who has not heard about the Lamrim before, has not studied the stages of the path enlightenment? Yeah. Okay. So Lamrim is a system, in English would be the graduated path to enlightenment, where we gradually train our mind. Ooh la la. So we gradually train our mind from wherever we're at right now, which might be a very ordinary level, or whatever level we are at, and we gradually train our mind all the way to complete enlightenment. So I was thinking about going from the end to the beginning and sort of trying to give an overview. So we divide the Buddhist path into the basis, the path, and the result. This is how we divide, one way of dividing the Buddha Dharma, where the ground refers to the ground of reality, how reality is basically constituted according to Buddhism, which is sort of the basis on which we can practice. So then the practice becomes the path, which is how we're trying to train ourselves, and the results are what we are aiming for. So the results can refer to, on the lowest level or on the most basic level, it's about the higher rebirth. On the intermediate level, it's about gaining salvation or our own liberation. And on the ultimate or highest level, it's complete Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is the ultimate goal of Mahayana practice. So that is what we call Buddhahood. That is the result that one is ultimately aiming for when one is practicing the Lamrim according to the Tibetan tradition. The result or Buddhahood, when we think about, what is a Buddha? That sort of textbook explanation is, a Buddha has two bodies, the truth body, the form body. The truth body is divided into nature truth body, wisdom truth body. The form body is divided into enjoyment body and an emanation body. The truth body is something one strives for one's own sake. It's sort of fulfilling one's own aim in the Mahayana path. Nature truth body refers to the true cessation in the mind of a Buddha. So it's the cessation of all obscurations, the afflictive obscurations, the cognitive obscurations. Basically, what is right now, this very moment, unless you're all Buddhas manifesting as ordinary sentient beings in order to give me the chance to get great merit, these two obscurations is what's hindering our own Buddhahood, according to Buddhism. It's what's obscuring our Buddha nature. So a Buddha is somebody who has completely eliminated these two obscurations, achieved the wisdom truth body, which is the omniscient mind of Buddha, which is said to be the potential of each and every sentient being. And I don't have to tell you, but it's can seem a bit like science fiction, no? Like it's something we're only depicted, I think, in American Hollywood movies. That this what if we could access 100% of our brain, as in the movie Lucy, I think. If you've seen this movie, or there's some other movies. My friend say you have to watch this movie Limitless or something like this, where they are sort of showing we have an incredible capacity to know, but this is only depicted in science fiction movies and in Buddhism. So, and as a friend in the monastery, usually sometimes he tells me, in any other religion, this would be considered a complete heresy to consider that you can attain the state of omniscience. And surprisingly, many human beings throughout the centuries have believed in omniscience. When we stop to think about what does omniscience mean, when I stop to think about it at least, it's, quite outrageous. This morning when I woke up, I just had this feeling of, a little bit intuition. What would it be like if I would just know what the landlords are thinking about or feeling right now, what they're talking about, or, the neighbors and so on. And it sort of blew my mind a little bit, just having this intuition of what was going through their mind. And a Buddha is knowing what is going through the minds of all sentient beings all the time, every moment, and seeing all the happiness, all the suffering, all the thoughts, all the virtue, all the non-virtue, etc., etc., and not going insane. Because of the great compassion, the bodhicitta, the culminated, perfected bodhicitta of a Buddha, she or he is able, is able to manifest the form bodies. The enjoyment bodies manifested in what's called, it's in pure realms, where they are only such an enjoyment body is said to have five certainties, but basically, they're only teaching Mahayana Dharma all the time, and they're only teaching to Arya Bodhisattvas. They cannot engage with ordinary beings, not because of a fault from their own side, but because of karmic obscurations on the side of sentient beings. So in order to engage with slops like me, they come and for those who are fortunate enough to meet the emanation body, such as a supreme emanation body, such as Shakyamuni Buddha, or they come in the form of gurus. So not supreme emanation bodies, but sort of emanation bodies, if they are Buddhas manifesting as gurus. And this is their way to connect with sentient beings. And they achieve this state. So if we go one step back, because or thanks to having perfected the accumulation of wisdom and the accumulation of merit, Buddhahood, as any other conditioned phenomena, does not arise without concordant causes. And in the sutra presentation, the concordant causes, the causes that can produce Buddhahood, is the accumulation of merit and wisdom. So right before attaining Buddhahood, they abide in the 10th level of a Bodhisattva in the Vasha-like concentration, which must be an extremely, extremely stable mind of concentration, which is very next moment able to produce Buddhahood. And they can only achieve this Vasha-like concentration, the meditative stabilization, because they have accumulated so much merit and they have meditated, familiarized themselves with wisdom realizing emptiness for such a long time. And it is said that it takes 3 countless great eons to attain Buddhahood. One of those eons they have to accumulate on what's called the 3 pure bhumis. So this is sort of when they have already achieved incredible abilities to emanate, to know other people's mind, to benefit others, and they have abandoned all afflictive obscurations at these 3 bhumis. So, they're free from samsara, but they choose to be reborn in samsara, not under the power of karma and afflictions, but under the power of compassion and prayers. Before that, they have to go through the 7 impure bhumis, So all of these are on the path of the so-called path of meditation, where one familiarizes oneself with the wisdom directly realizing emptiness in meditative equipoise. And this is the direct antidote to the afflictions. By seeing emptiness, ultimate reality, they are able to purify the mind more and more and more from both the afflictive and cognitive obscurations. And in post-meditative equipoise, that is when they're not meditating on emptiness, they're engaging in activities to accumulate merit, they're helping sentient beings emanating. Only the Buddhas knows what they're doing, and where they are. But that is preceded by so they spend one countless great eon also on these 7 bhumis to accumulate these 2 collections. And that is preceded by then the first bhumi, right? The first bhumi is when you have the direct realization of emptiness. That is called the path of seeing, because you're seeing truth for the first time. And that is how you enter the path of Mahayana path of seeing. So one step back, you have to go on the path of preparation. You prepare yourself for going on the path of seeing, for having that direct realization on emptiness. So in this path of preparation, what the Bodhisattva mainly does, so at this level, the Bodhisattva is an ordinary being, in contrast to an Arya being. And what the Bodhisattva mainly does is to meditate on emptiness with the union of calm abiding and special insight. But this is an inferential realization. They're realizing ultimate reality, not directly, but way of reasoning, what we call meaning generality, or a correct reason. They have to familiarize themselves with this inferential realization more and more over a long time on the path of preparation, based on an extremely stable mind of a concentration, which they can also analyze with this meditative stabilization. And usually these don't go together very well. Stabilizing meditation and special insight, analyzing mind, because one is movement and one is frozen. But at this moment, because they have familiarized themselves so much with both of these mind previously on the path of accumulation and previously, they are able to move their mind without causing any disruption at all to their meditative stabilization. A bit like Lama Yeshe explains on the text of Mahamudra. It's like a fish, a fish swimming in the ocean without creating any ripples whatsoever in the water. They enter the path of preparation by this union of calm abiding and special insight on emptiness. Before that, they have to go through the path of accumulation, where one accumulates lots and lots of merit through, the 6 perfections, which one has to practice through the entire Bodhisattva path. The, generosity, patience, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom, the perfections of those, which have to be conjoined with bodhicitta to be perfections, and also has to be sort of going towards wisdom to be perfections. And one tries to understand the meaning of emptiness. One has not already realized it before, by way of study and contemplation on the path of accumulation. So the path of accumulation and path of preparation, again, takes one countless eon, where one has to collect wisdom and merit. So all in all, it's the 3 countless eons of the Bodhisattva path according to the sutra presentation. Now, the only gateway to enter the Mahayana path is bodhicitta. And the Lamrim system is very much sort of oriented towards generating bodhicitta. For ordinary beings to be able to generate bodhicitta. So the Lamrim is sort of, a lot of it is just, if the bodhisattva path is the highway, then the Lamrim is a lot like going on the country way for a very long time before you can actually enter the highway. To generate bodhicitta, what is bodhicitta? If somebody enlightens me. Say it with your own words. You don't have to give the definition according to the ornament or something like that.
You wish to remove the suffering for all sentient beings and the wish.
Okay. Nothing else? Okay.
Inspiration, the wish. Yeah.
Leading them to enlightenment, no?
And lead him to enlightenment also, yeah.
And it's not just wishing, there are two kinds. There's engaging with the bodhicitta as well as a wishful one, right?
Yes.
You have to work
Yeah.
to actually work towards your goal.
Yeah, exactly. So we have can divide bodhicitta many times and many ways. Wishing bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta, but we begin with wishing bodhicitta. So it is a wish for all sentient beings to be completely free from all suffering. And we should add an uncontrived wish. So it's not just the thought, that even a slob like me can have, but it is this uncontrived wish, which is spontaneously arising and which is not making any discrimination whatsoever between friends, enemies, and strangers. It's completely impartial. And so that is sort of so that's one aspiration of bodhicitta. For all sentient beings to be free from suffering and to establish them in perfect happiness. The other aspiration is this kind of recognition of, being a bit realistic. I cannot do it right now. As an ordinary being, I cannot even accomplish my own welfare, even imperfectly. So only a Buddha has the power to do that in a perfect manner, one strives for Buddhahood. So it's these two aspirations, also to achieve one's own complete enlightenment. So, in the very technical definition is something like a main mind. It's a special Mahayana main mind, which arises concomitant with the aspiration for enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Blah, 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 yada, yada. Which serves as a entranceway to the Mahayana path. Sort of emphasizing that that bodhicitta is the only entryway to the bodhicitta, to the Mahayana path, which Lama Tsongkhapa emphasizes quite a lot in the Lamrim. He says, doesn't matter if you have realized emptiness. It doesn't matter if you have incredible concentrations and you can see through your ears and you can hear through your eyes. Doesn't matter if you can walk through walls. Doesn't matter if you have perfect renunciation. But if you have not generated bodhicitta, you have not entered the Mahayana path. And you may call yourself a Mahayanist by way of, listening to the Mahayana Dharma or explaining the Mahayana Dharma. But unless you have actually generated bodhicitta, then you are not a Mahayanist. So it's only demarcated by having generated bodhicitta or not having generated bodhicitta, the uncontrived version. Yes?
Is it going to be the entering step or it's also the final step? Because since if you have bodhicitta, what more would you require? Is wisdom is not included in the bodhicitta once you have it? I ask if there are any other steps once you got
Uh,
full bodhicitta.
yes.
Return on question, repeat the question.
If there are any other steps after having generated bodhicitta,
Yes.
with regard to with regard to just developing bodhicitta, or with just in general?
If you already have it,
If you have all, if you already have it,
you already have a full bodhicitta, not the inspiring bodhicitta, but really have the full thing.
yeah.
So, is there any more things you would aspire to, or you more steps to go?
Yes, because bodhicitta, like I said, it's just entering the highway. So still you have to go the entire highway, and the highways is long. Yeah. Yeah.
I
like-
ask where you have to go.
So like I said, trying to go from back to the beginning. After generating bodhicitta, first of all, then you have what's called the 22 types of bodhicitta, each stronger than the previous one, each being a basis for more qualities. So the first type of bodhicitta is called earth-like bodhicitta, on the path, on the small level of the path of accumulation, because it's like earth. It is the foundation for all good qualities of a bodhisattva. But at this level, it is said that bodhicitta is unstable, that it's possible for you to lose your bodhicitta because of all the difficulties and hardships that one has to go through in order to benefit sentient beings. Sentient beings, we are not very grateful when people are helping us. We're not very, I don't know, pliant, complying with the bodhisattva instructs you with compassion, do this, but you say, no, I'd rather do this. So there's several stories about bodhisattvas who have lost bodhicitta because of the difficulties that they had to go through, this earth-like bodhicitta. Second level, on the middling level of path of accumulation, Mahayana path of accumulation, that's called, am I speaking too fast for people? No. Okay. Gold-like bodhicitta. That's when bodhicitta is immutable, you cannot lose it. Just like gold, it doesn't change whatever way you transform it. So you have to strengthen your bodhicitta more and more throughout the path, and you have to develop other qualities as well. You have to develop, for example, all the levels of concentrations, the 8 levels of concentrations, which should be finalized by the great level of path accumulation. Then you have to have the union of special insight and calm abiding on emptiness and ultimate reality. Familiarize, that's entering the path of preparation. Familiarizing yourself with that again and again in order to abandon more manifest afflictive and cognitive obscurations on the path of preparation. Entering the Mahayana path of seeing, when you have the direct realization of emptiness. Then familiarizing yourself more and more with that realization and going out from meditative equipoise to accumulate merit. Entering the path of meditation, where you start to abandon the innate obscurations. And then you have to familiarize yourself like this again and again and again until you reach the path of no more learning, Buddhahood. So bodhicitta is just an entryway. But it's the only entryway for the Mahayana path. So in order to develop bodhicitta, there's two methods. There's the sevenfold cause and effect, and there's the equalizing, exchanging oneself with others. These are the two methods that are presented in the Tibetan system. So very briefly, if I just go the sevenfold, so the effect is bodhicitta, right? The previous cause, the immediately previous cause, is what's called the special intention, where you say, I am going to take responsibility for all sentient beings, and therefore I need to attain Buddhahood. The previous step to that is the great compassion, which cannot bear the suffering of sentient beings. It's completely consuming your mind, the suffering of sentient beings. And you have this. Previous to that, it's the loving kindness, or what's called the beautiful loving kindness, where you see sentient beings, every sentient being in a very, like, as if they are very beautiful to you, as if you're like your mother or your father or somebody you hold very dear. Whatever they're doing, you still see beauty in them, because you have this very great love for them. That comes from having contemplated that comes from the wish for repaying the kindness of others. That comes from having contemplated the kindness of others, which comes from the first step there and this method, which is recognizing each and every sentient being to have been your mother at some point in evolution. And that is preceded by having equanimity, contemplated how having contemplated how all sentient beings just want happiness, don't want suffering, and how our relationships with each other have changed dramatically over time and samsara. The other method is a bit more complicated, so I won't go into that now. I'm thinking this is anyway just an overview. So bodhicitta needs to be preceded by renunciation. If you don't have the wish to free yourself from the suffering of samsara, there's no way you're gonna want to wish others to be free from suffering of samsara. Renunciation, is the self-compassion of seeing, recognizing suffering, the suffering of samsara, the true suffering, that the 5 contaminated agates that we have are not true happiness in nature, it's true suffering in nature. This we recognize to, in the Four Noble. So this is part of contemplating the Four Noble Truths, the first teaching of the Buddha. We recognize that by contemplating the 8 types of suffering, the 6 types of suffering, the 3 types of suffering, etc. Then you see what are the causes of suffering. Is suffering something which is just inherent to life, something inescapable, or is it something which has causes we can remove? So according to Buddhism, suffering has causes which we can remove. They are adventitious. And there are afflictions and contaminated karma. And the root cause of suffering is ignorance, grasping, at whatever, according to which tenet system you will hold to, but grasping at inherent existence according to Prasangika. And you see that this grasping at true existence, it can actually be removed because there is a powerful antidote to remove it. There is a wisdom realizing that the way things actually exist. Seeing that the causes of suffering can be removed, you understand that true cessation can be actualized. So that's the 3rd noble truth. So it is possible to attain the internal state of complete, perfect happiness for yourself. And then you engage in the path, the 4th noble truth. So for example, from the Hinayana or Hinayana perspective or Theravada perspective, it is the 3 higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom. So then you have recognized that, wow, it is possible to actually put an end to suffering altogether. And this is the middle scope sort of mindset and the middle scope achievement. Here we also meditate. The other method is to meditate on 12 links of dependent origination to show how we engage in samsara, how we are caught up in samsara, and how we can exit samsara. Now, the middle scope it's not something, it's sort of still, you know, if bodhicitta is the very deep end of the pool, or the deep end of the ocean, and the middle scope is the middling depth of the ocean, then, you know, we cannot jump into that right from the beginning, unless we have prepared our mind already a lot in the past. So that's why in the Lamrim, it's preceded by the topics or the meditations which are in common with the topics of the small scope. So we say in common with. Why do we say that? Like that there are meditations or topics in common with the small scope, and why don't we say that they are the topics of the small scope?
Maybe because it's the topic of everything, better to do with the first scope where we begin doing what we need to do.
Yeah, but why do we say like this, especially in common? Why not say it's just the topics of the small scope?
Because you need to continue to practice it in the middle and the high scope. You continue to practice the topics of the lower scope.
That's true, but it's not the reason. The reason is that because right from the outset, there's sort of an understanding that I'm not aiming for the achievements or the attitude of a small scope being, but I am going to continue to the middle scope and then to the great scope. Just as when in order to get here, I had to go through many, I don't know, path 20, road 20 and road, I don't know, different roads and so on. But I know that's not, I have to enter these roads, but this is the final destination, right? So in the same way, I know that, okay, small scope is, it's path 20. I have to pass, go into Tel Aviv, and then I have to pass Tel Aviv on path, whatever, 6 or... So that's why we say in common with. So it's because in order to generate renunciation, we cannot generate renunciation if we're still grasping at samsara, the happiness and excellence of samsara in general. On the one hand, our mind is going, oh, it would be nice to achieve nirvana, but it would also be nice to have a, God realm rebirth. Cannot have both of these minds together. So that's why we need to, definitely we cannot have the mind which is obsessively grasping at the happiness of this life and trying to achieve liberation. So the meditations here are basically, if you go again from end to the beginning, we have contemplating karma, the general and specific characteristics of karma, to develop the understanding, which Lama Kappa called the correct belief of all the Buddhists, and the foundation of all temporal and ultimate happiness. That is the concept of the belief in karma. That is preceded by taking refuge, which is the entryway to the teachings. These two are the methods of achieving high rebirth. And we need high rebirth in order to practice in general. Now, those two meditations are preceded by contemplating the suffering of the lower rebirths and contemplating death and impermanence in order to turn our mind away from obsession with only this life and to be interested in future lifetimes. So that's why again and again one has to have some kind of genuine recognition in oneself that, what might, first of all, that, all of us have a death sentence. We have a certain amount of time to live, and we don't know how long it's going to be. And at the time of death, only Dharma practice will be of any benefit to us. And that if we have not if we have not been able to transform our mind, at least on a minimal level of stopping to give harm to others, then at the time of death, we can be projected to a lower realm. And so one needs to contemplate the credible sufferings in the lower realms to turn one's mind away, to generate the fear of the causes of going to a lower realm. So these two topics are preceded by recognizing our precious opportunities of a precious human rebirth, which hopefully we'll go into a little bit today, which is preceded by Guru devotion, the topics on Guru devotion, which is called the root of the path, and that is especially the root of the Mahayana path, and very much in particular the Tantric path, which in the Lamrim is preceded by the preliminary topics of how to listen and how to explain the Dharma, the four greatnesses of this Dharma system, and then checking the credentials of the teacher. And that's it for an overview of the Lamrim. And we have
From the top to the beginning.
yeah.
Mhm.
So we take a pause, but we can just dedicate the merit. And the best is if we dedicate it for our own complete enlightenment, for the benefit of all sentient beings. All these sentient beings are the source of our happiness, in the present. They have been in the past, and they will be the source of our happiness in the future. And whatever little hardships we may experience in the present, it will all, pass and so on. So, best use we can make of our merit is to dedicate to enlightenment. Janshu Senshu Rinpoche Ma Ke Pa Na Ke Kish Ke Wa Nyampa Me Pa Kone Kondu Pe Wa Shu. We do a meditation. The meditation, yeah. Okay. How do people feel? You want to do like calming meditation, like breathing meditation to calm your mind? Or you want to, or you want to meditate a little bit of what was said now to have again, repeat an overview of the Lamrim system. So I check whatever arises in my mind. Okay? So you take a comfortable position for meditation. One can meditate, actually in every position. But if one is sitting up, then the best is to just keep the back a bit straight. This helps the energy flow in our body and mind, in our body. And we also make sure that our shoulders are relaxed, leveled, and open. We can put our hands on either on our thighs or in our lap, tongue on our palate to prevent production of saliva. And if it's helpful for you, you can close your eyes or keep them, have them half open, looking in the space in front of you about half a meter. You can scan through your body from bottom, from your feet to your calves, to your thighs, making sure you're not uncomfortable or holding any tension. You let your awareness travel up your back to your shoulders, checking that there's no tension. You check your facial muscles around your eyes and your jaws. And put your attention on your breath on the level of your nostrils. And if your mind wanders away, then you gently but firmly bring it back. Like a kind parent would go after their child. Well, that meditation means to familiarize yourself. So in this case, we familiarize with keeping our attention on the breath. And the more we do it, the easier it becomes. Think a little bit about your good conditions that you have right now. The comfort and the health of your body, which is a precious treasure. Access to food and shelter and clothes. Many possessions you might have is helping your life. Also living in a country where you are not persecuted for pursuing a spiritual path. Have your own choice. When you contemplate these things, try to do that with a sense of wow, not to be taken for granted. Then contemplate your internal conditions, having functioning sense faculties, intelligence to understand meaning and express yourself, having a faith in the Dharma. These excellent conditions exist through the kindness of others, exist through the kindness of our teachers, the accomplished Buddhist masters that are bringing Dharma to the West. The kindness of all the people that wholeheartedly study and try to uphold the teachings in the various monasteries and Dharma centers. Especially the Sangha. And it also exists to the kindness of other sentient beings, our parents, friends, our colleagues, and our boss, and all the people that grow the food and create the buildings and so on. So try to recognize this kindness. If we do see the kindness of others, and sometimes our heart is touched by it, and if we can generate this attitude that the purpose of my life is to benefit others, is to make use of my body, speech, and mind to alleviate the suffering of others, to bring them happiness. And as a conclusion, focus on that thought a bit. We have a break for 20 minutes.